It's 9 p.m. and I'm back outside because rain is coming. I can smell it in the air. So I'm going to try and sow a few seeds of pumpkins and squash because that's something that I was trying so hard to sow all summer long. Well, no, because that's something that I've been trying to sow for the last few weeks, and every single time they've gotten scorched. So I'm hoping that this rain brings a little bit of cooler weather, and also I don't want to let my kids down. I want to actually grow them pumpkins this year. There's still a lot of other things that I can plant, but I feel like I have a little bit more time, whereas with the pumpkins, I want to get some in the ground before Halloween. They probably won't be. You scared me. How the heck? I didn't even hear the door open. You scared me. Can you smell the rain?
No.
How can you not smell it? Well, anyways, I have a grease pencil here because one of you guys recommended using that instead of pencil. And I like it so far. I bought a pack of them on Amazon and they've been working really well. But I'm going to be sowing seeds of the green striped cushaw squash, Musqué de Provence winter squash, some calabaza de aguas, Seminole pumpkin, spaghetti squash, and I think I might have a few other pumpkin seeds in here. I'm just trying to throw as many as I can into the garden bed, and hopefully at least one or two vines survive. That way my kids can have some sort of pumpkin for Halloween. Okay, I'm just gonna plant these into one garden bed. I know that seems like a lot, but honestly, I have a feeling that only like half of them are gonna make it. So I'm gonna pop like 2 seeds of each and let that bed go wild with pumpkins everywhere. I don't even know where my tools are at because it's been so long since I've planted anything in the garden. Here it is. I've got my dipper in hand and I think I should be ready to go. Oh, I also have all my tomatoes that I could probably transplant right now, but I think I'm gonna hold off until tomorrow only because I really want to take a good look and decide where to plant them. But who knows, maybe I'll even do it right now. This is the middle garden bed, and I think this is where I want to put all of the pumpkins down, just because I feel like the middle beds always are a little bit more tedious to get to because they've got trellises on either side, and I can still reach everything, but I feel like it's just a little bit more annoying than usual. So letting it fill with vines and squash is going to be perfect. Look how beautiful that looks. When I first began gardening, I was so eager to try growing all kinds of unique pumpkin varieties. I went through packs and packs of seeds, but not a single plant produced. Over the years, I've learned a lot and gotten better results, so I thought I'd share the tips I've picked up along the way, even though I'm still figuring things out myself. Tip number 1 is stick to pumpkin and squash varieties that fall under the mochada and mixta cucurbita species. There are basically 4 main categories, which are the pepo, maxima, mochada, and mixta. Cucurbita pepo pumpkins grow well in temperate climates. They have a shorter growing season and come in various forms. These include classic varieties like jack-o'-lantern pumpkins and acorn squash. Next up is Cucurbita maxima. These are the giants of the garden and are best suited for temperate to cool climates. Varieties like the Hubbard squash, kabocha, and giant pumpkins fall into this category. I'd love to grow an Atlantic giant someday and maybe even visit a giant pumpkin contest, but unfortunately they don't have those here in the low desert. But maybe in the high desert, I'll have to look that up. Cucurbita mochada pumpkins do well in warm to hot climates, though I'll admit the scorching heat of Arizona is still a bit extreme for them. Varieties like butternut squash and Long Island cheese pumpkin are tan rather than orange and have a nutty flavor. They're also more resistant to pests. Some of my favorites are the honey nut butternut squash, Seminole pumpkin, and Cinderella pumpkin. These are perfect for making sweet dishes like calabaza mielada, which is a delightful candied pumpkin served with cold milk and one of my absolute favorite desserts ever. Finally, we have Cucurbita mixta, which includes pumpkins of various shapes that thrive in warm climates. These are known for being drought tolerant and include varieties like the green striped cushaw squash. Tip number 2 is to give your pumpkin vines plenty of water. They're some of the thirstiest plants and are often the first to wilt on hot days. I used to hand water infrequently and my vines suffered for it. Now I make sure they get consistent daily watering during warmer months. Tip number 3 is to protect the vines with shade cloth. Even varieties meant for hot climates have a hard time handling Arizona's intense sun. I like using 50% white shade cloth because it blocks just the right amount of light to prevent scorching and doesn't make any of my plants stretch for light. Additionally, I've found that planting pumpkins in late fall or early winter works best in serendipity. It means I don't get pumpkins for Halloween, but at least I get to harvest something. I've tried planting for Halloween several times, but the heat is usually accompanied by pests like vine borers, and the extreme temperatures usually stunt the plants. But keep in mind that every garden is different, so there may be a lot of other gardeners out there who can successfully grow pumpkins before Halloween here in the low desert, and over time hopefully I get there too someday. I really wanted to chat with you as I planted these seeds on this gorgeous stormy night, but unfortunately it was so windy that the audio kept going in and out. A butternut squash right there. So all I did was take the seeds and I looked at each variety and saw how big each of them got so that I knew exactly where to place them, even though I know that pumpkin vines go kind of crazy. So no matter where I place them, they're most likely going to do whatever they want. But at least this way I could start guiding some of the vines in certain directions. For example, on either side of this middle garden bed, I have 2 trellises. These are DIY trellises that I made a few years ago, and they're some of my absolute favorite in the entire garden. And I think they would be perfect for growing smaller pumpkins like the Seminole pumpkins, the butternut squash. I think those would look so adorable dangling down from these trellises. So I'm planting them on the edges of the garden bed, and then I'm leaving a lot of the bigger varieties down the middle. In the end, I know that the vines are probably just going to do whatever they want, but this way I can try and maintain some sort of order. And I'm also overplanting the beds heavily because the days are still very hot here in the low desert of Arizona. So every single day I see dozens and dozens of birds in the garden once the sun comes up, and they're constantly scratching at the garden beds and making a mess everywhere, and they dig out everything. They dig up seedlings, they dig up any seeds that I put down. So I know that inevitably they will get to some in the garden bed, so I'm planting extra seeds just so that a couple can actually survive. And in case they don't get to them, I'll go in later on and thin them out to just leave a couple in the garden bed. And I usually leave the ones that are performing the best. And as I'm direct sowing the seeds, I'm looking for the water emitters in the drip line. That way I can plant them right underneath the water emitter because these go off on a regular basis, and that way the seeds don't dry out. And I also don't have to keep coming out here to water the garden beds in. I still will, just to make sure that they germinate, but this way they have a source of water ready to go. Especially because, as you know, pumpkins do love water. I'm done planting the squash and pumpkins. And it's getting really hot out here, really hot and humid. I'm starting to get sweat in my eyes. But honestly, this is a lot of fun. Hopefully we get some sort of pumpkin. I could always do what I did last year, which was to buy pumpkins at the store and just place them around the garden. And the kids were none the wiser. But I did feel bad. I just didn't want to ruin Halloween, you know, because they were really looking forward to having pumpkins. But so hopefully I'm able to grow them some.